This podcast is a proud member of the Unidentified Network.
On the Track is a monthly web TV show about cryptozoology, natural history, green issues and whatever else the team feel like making up as they go along. Enjoy!
So what have we got exciting that's coming up in this episode, Mr. John?
Well, Hennis, in this week's episode, we say hello again to one of our favourite guests, Ian Squibbs, and we go with him to Loch Ness to see what's been happening up there in the Great Glen.
I really like the old credits.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name's John Downs. I'm the Director of the Centre for Fortean Zoology, and welcome to another episode of Hang On, What's Happening Over There? We seem to have been transported to somewhere in the Isle of Man, because I can see a vociferous viverrid.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am Jeff the Talking Mongoose and we are going live from the Cat Skinner's Arms in Carlisle, where there are several large diddy-coy gentlemen with big sharp knives who are going to be processing cats.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let's start again. By the way, I'm not sure what it is with Richard and cats. He always professes to hate them, but whenever he's here, he has Lilith and Peanut sitting on his lap and he makes a big fuss of them and calls them pet names. And he wouldn't do anything to disturb them, let alone hurt them. But that's by the by, as Jeff the Talking Mongoose would say. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name's John Downs. I'm the Director of the Centre for Fortean Zoology, and welcome to another episode of On the Track. Every Wednesday evening at 6:30 for about a quarter of an hour, and every Saturday afternoon for about twice that at 3 o'clock, we bring you a mixture, a melange, I can't think of anything else beginning with M. Lauren, what begins with M?
Mustard, of course.
Thank you, Lauren. I can work with that because I'm as keen as mustard to get on with the show. Yes, we bring you a mustard of hard science, weird shit and surreality. What's surreality? Well, copy load of this.
Now a party political broadcast by the Conservative Party.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, now that's all done and dusted, I want to introduce you to Ian Squibbs, this week's special guest. And once again, Ian takes us up to the shores of Loch Ness in the Great Glen in Scotland to tell us all about the latest developments there. So, here we are again, Ian. And do you realise, historically, this is the first time that you and I have done a Loch Ness roundup without Tony Shields being on the planet.
Yes, it's a sad day, but we all have, we just have to have positive memories of the man, because he was an inspiration to us all. So we can dedicate this programme to Tony himself. So,
and that's for you, Doc.
Yes.
So,
okay,
let's go for it.
Well, John, it's good to be back on CFZ TV as we take another deep dive into the pool of the peculiar. And yes, today we're going to head to Loch Ness and check out the latest reports of the presence of a mysterious creature lurking in the murky depths. So, it appears that the past month have been quite eventful at Loch Ness, with several reports of the monster making the mainstream news. So what we'll do, we'll have a look at some of these reports and we'll see what we think. So, okay then. So let's start off with an article from the Metro newspaper from the 17th of September, which had the following headline: Bloke swimming across Loch Ness touched by something big underwater. Well, okay, well, this is quite a turn-up, so let's see what the report said.
It's very hard not to make cheap, smutty comments about it.
Well,
like that.
Yes, we could make it could easily crop up in a carry-on film or the like. Let's see anyway. So, the infamous Loch Ness monster could actually be real because one man has said Nessie brushed up against him while swimming. Duncan Roberts, 30, had the terrifying encounter when he was swimming in the chilly waters of the famous loch. He said, "It was something big. During my swim, I experienced a bump halfway across. There is something weird at play in the water. The depth and the darkness of that water plays tricks with your mind. The water is pitch black, and I had my eyes closed for a lot of the time as the depth and the darkness terrified me, so I didn't see anything. I just felt it, a big thud in the chest." I think anyone who swims in the deep part of the loch is lying if they say they haven't thought about the monster. I was focused on getting across as quickly as possible, so the hit was a shock. I was already nervous before the swim. If I knew something was going to bump into me halfway across, I would definitely have been having second thoughts. Roberts continued, "I live in Australia and surf all the time, often with great white sharks. I was more scared of getting into the Loch Ness water. It was one of the toughest things I have ever done mentally. I flew all the way from Australia, so it would have been tough to back out. The loch is beautiful, but definitely has a vibe about it that makes you freeze at the thought of swimming in it. Not to mention, it is roughly 6 to 10 degrees centigrade. It also has a sensation of pulling you under a little. I think because it is fresh water and so deep. I was hoping not to have an encounter. The dark water alone is scary enough, let alone worrying about anything else that might lurk below. There were definitely moments of awe and beauty as I caught glimpses of the length of the loch while I took breaths during the swim. But I wanted to get to the other side at Urquhart Bay. Swimming into the castle was pretty magical. To top it all off, Duncan climbed Ben Nevis afterwards and then got a tattoo of Nessie to remember getting touched by the beast." So, there we have it. Imagine swimming in Loch Ness when something big under the water touches you. I'd get the hell out of there. What do you make of that then, John? Apart from the double entendres.
Apart from the double entendres, which I am still childish enough to find massively funny, I think anybody who wants to go for a swim in Loch Ness is barking mad.
Well, a lot of people do. And when you go there, especially sort of towards the summer, you do see, people do go swimming there. And yes, I don't think I'd be going for such a swim. But anyway, what could have been in the loch that could have caused that, though? Apart from a plesiosaur, what could it be? Pike, eel?
The first thing that came to my mind was that certain small cetaceans, dolphins and porpoises, are quite friendly, although sometimes with a sexual ulterior motive, and that's no double entendre intended, can come up and bump against
yes,
swimmers and people in small boats and things. But I think it's highly unlikely that unless it was very high water and a porpoise swam up the River Ness into the lake and stayed there for a few days before going back down again, I think it's highly unlikely that you've got any cetaceans anywhere near the lake.
Plus a dolphin has a blowhole, so he probably would have seen the dolphin come up for a blow, wouldn't he? So, well. Yeah.
Misses.
But anyway. Yeah, there are fish there. Pike, eel, salmon, trout, all native to Loch Ness and can grow days and could give a swimmer a fright. Plus, of course, we've got the possibility of sturgeon and the infamous eunuch eel. So yeah, big things are in Loch Ness, which might not be the monster. Maybe debris under the water, perhaps. Mandrill. We will probably never know, but it will remain another unanswered question. So,
there's also those weird waves that I remember Adrian Shine telling me about. You've got those waves in the more peaty layer of water below that can cause waves underneath the surface of the water itself. And maybe if you've got a big area of peaty water rubbing against your leg, that might be.
Yeah, that could cause such a sensation, but yeah, we'll maybe one day we'll find out. But anyway, what we'll do though, let's move on to the next exciting report, which came to light on the 23rd of September, when the Daily Mirror ran the following headline. Loch Ness monster hunters given fresh hope after canoeists thumped in mystery encounter. So blimey. This should be good. So then, it would appear to be another physical encounter with the monster. So let's run through the story, see what we got. A dad and son felt massive thumps on the bottom of their canoes from a big object in the murky depths of Loch Ness. Experienced guide Jeff Potts and son Chris had the scary encounter on the lake famous for the mythical Loch Ness monster earlier this month. The pair were paddling in separate canoes on the loch when both of them were hit hard from below. The impact was so sudden it nearly knocked the paddle from Chris's grip. It comes just days after it was reported that swimmer Duncan Roberts was hit in the chest by a mystery creature whilst crossing the loch. Jeff, 53, and Chris, 24, have canoed there many times and have never had such an encounter before, with the canoe being hit hard from below. Jeff said, "I guide canoe trips in the Great Glen. I've also in the last few years. A few weeks ago, whilst I was out with my son Chris, something bumped into my canoe hard from below. And when I mentioned it to Chris, he said he hit something with his paddle, which nearly took it out of his hand. I didn't see anything. I just felt a big thump against the bottom of my boat. I've completed around crossings since 2021, including the first recorded non-stop solo crossing that I'm aware of in an open canoe." He added that the impact felt different to hitting a log. Loch Ness has an impressive presence about it. I mean, it's huge, he said. Double entendre there for you, John. As I've completed it so many times, it was confusing to get a thud which sounded so dull. I have hit logs before, and this was not like hitting wood at all. You immediately wonder what it was, but the water is so dark you can only see a few foot down. My son Chris has his own business running trips like this, and he's never experienced anything like it either. So, the plot thickens. What's your take on that encounter then, John?
Well, it's almost like a companion piece to the first one, isn't it?
Yes. And it has echoes of the McDonald-Simpson encounter on Loch Ness in 1969, where a creature bumps into the boat, and also a bit like the time when Holmes and Watson had a collision with the monster in the 1970 Billy Wilder film, The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes. But yeah.
I'm sure there's been similar accounts from Lake Sturgeon in Sweden. I'm sure I know a story about a canoeist or something fishing in a small boat being bumped by something from below.
Well, I think, though, they missed a trick, because the canoe and the oar could have been forensically tested for DNA, and the mystery could have finally been solved. Yeah, but it's too late for that now. So
I don't know. Would DNA be left onto an oar, even though it's been underwater and been used for rowing for a serious length of time?
Well, it could have washed off, but definitely would have been by now. But if they could have thought quickly and made sure the oar didn't make contact with the water any longer, then the mystery could have been solved. But anyway, it wasn't. So, right, let's we'll move on to the most recent report, which is from the 3rd of October, when the Daily Mail ran the following headline: Has Nessie finally been found? Season's Loch Ness skipper shares images of monster-like shape caught on sonar. So, the article reads as follows. It's the mythical creature that has captured the attention of people around the world for decades. And now the search for the Loch Ness Monster has been taken up again. Sean Sloggy, a seasoned Loch Ness skipper, was cruising across the loch when he spotted a mysterious shape on sonar. Whilst its source remains unclear, Sloggy, 30, admits he's never seen anything like it. The strangeness of it was chilling. It's the sort of thing that leaves you speechless, he said. Sloggy and maritime pilot Liam Mackenzie, 29, were doing their usual rounds at Cruise Loch Ness when they stumbled upon the strange shape. On September the 22nd, 2024, whilst preparing for another vessel's arrival, Sloggy's sonar flashed up. The sonar indicated a large object was lurking at a depth of around 98 meters. He described it as the biggest thing I've seen. Oh, matron! With its elongated shape and distinct features hinting at air pockets, the team couldn't help but wonder if the sonar reading was tied to the infamous Loch Ness Monster. We've seen all sorts of fish, and that shouldn't be here. But this was different, Sloggy said. Despite returning to the scene to investigate, the mysterious contact had vanished, leaving the team baffled. Sloggy admitted, "We're not sonar experts, but we've never seen anything like it." And spookily, the last major sonar contact in Loch Ness occurred almost exactly 4 years ago, on the 24th of September 2020. So, right. So, the question we have is, what did they see? So what we'll do, John, let's have a look. We've got an image. So what we'll have a look at is we'll look at the image they caught. I'll show the people at home. So there, what do you make of that then, John?
Probably is I don't know enough about sonar. I would say it's obviously something.
It's certainly
what
big.
That something is, I don't know. And just to show you, ladies and gentlemen, I am looking at it here as well.
Me too at my end. Well, yeah, it's big, and there's a kind of a long, thin appendage at the front, which is definitely neck-like. So
Well, it
fits
looks
the
like a
bill.
turtle. I mean, it looks like it's got a big flat shell at the back and a head and neck coming out, but there's no evidence whatsoever for any turtles of any size, terrapins, turtles, or anything of any size living in Loch Ness.
Well,
it does look like one.
Exactly. Could this be what we've been looking for? The search must go on. So,
no knows.
Exactly.
Tell you the one thing that actually shocked me was when you started at the beginning of the story and you said that Croggy was his name. Yeah, was a season-long Loch Ness captain of many years. And I was suddenly thought, oh, I wonder if it's the captain who Richard and I were with when we were at Loch Ness. Then I did my son's. That was 19 years ago. He would have been 10. So Richard and I are far more seasoned lake monster researchers than that guy. And I've got no idea what that picture is.
But it's definitely mysterious, and all we can say is the search must go on. So,
do you know, are the other white blobs above and to the side of it, are they fish?
Well, I don't know, but I assume so. You do get shoals of fish sonar, which are quite distinguishable. Yeah, that's the trouble with sonar, isn't it? You don't really know. You're looking at, but that's all you can say about the matter. So it could be debris, could be a gas-filled tree trunk, which is what's one common theory we've had over the years. But anyway,
it certainly is something.
It is. So there we have it. An informal but informative roundup of the latest news from the most mysterious body of water in the world.
I noticed that you don't do the various pictures which quite often are found by Owen O'Fadigan, that's how you pronounce his name, on the Loch Ness webcams.
Well, we can have a roundup of them next time and see what he's found. There's not really... There's always a wake or something going on in these pictures. Unless there's something more solid to go on. They're all very similar to each other. But yeah, we can have a roundup of his findings soon. We'll see what he's got out there.
I agree with you. Most of them don't look solid.
But it's they still have to be reviewed. You were trying to get hold of the guy, weren't you, if I remember rightly? Did you have any luck?
No, I'm still trying to get hold of him because I would be very interested to find out about his motivation, how long he's been doing this.
Yes.
And what keeps him going.
Well, I think lots of people do it. They just don't publicize their findings as much as him. But, yeah. So there we go. But, to conclude on that section, though, whether you believe that there is a monster living in Loch Ness, or whether you load of old codswallop, you cannot ignore the fact that it's a story that just won't go away. Adrian Shine once said, "Man needs monsters," and it's reports like these and the dodgy photos that feeds this need as we patiently wait for the day where we are finally presented with conclusive evidence. But until that day arrives, watching this space. Thank you.
These might look like ordinary, everyday people, but they're not. Let's take a closer look. I'm filling my tomato harness with talcum powder on the moon. Back seats. The keeper welcome in the hillside. Cherry ripe, cherry ripe. I live inside of a crab with Rip Van Winkle and the Pat a Cake Man. Yes, they were all wazzocks. You can tell wazzocks by their general waz-tardedness. So remember, think once, think twice, think wazzock.
That was a public information film.
And ladies and gentlemen, here we are at the end of another episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I want to say a big thank you to my special guest, Ian Squibbs, and to Richard Freeman, V. McFinnan and Graham Inglis for all the stuff they do, and to my producer Louis, and to Gwyn Palmer, the Assistant Director of the CFZ, who is increasingly doing more and more and more until she finally takes over from me when I lay down my staff and take some degree of retirement. Won't be yet, but it'll be sooner rather than later. I'm going to be back on Wednesday. What am I talking about on Wednesday? I've got absolutely no idea. No idea whatsoever. And I'll be back on Saturday. What am I going to be talking about on Saturday? Well, I think it's probable that I'll be there with Richard Freeman and the late Alan Freeman, no relation, going through the bottom 10 cryptids. The 10 cryptids he thinks are least likely to exist. And that's going to be a jolly interesting one. That's going to be a multi-part series, and although I've recorded it, I haven't edited it yet, so I've got no idea whether it's going to be 2 parts or 3 parts. Last time we did it, it was 4. But whatever it turns out to be, I'm going to be there. And I'm going to be doing the live chat and the notifications and all the other stuff I do. So, are you all going to be there, Mr. McCrinnan? I don't know about him. Are you going to be there, Miss Isabel?
I'll definitely be there.
So, me and Miss Isabel will be there, and hopefully you'll be there, Mr. McCrinnan. Because if you are there, then you, Miss Isabel, and everybody else watching will be seeing me.